Welcome to EPL Insights with data provided by Infogol. We're back for another week of providing you out there our winners. Gareth Wheeler alongside Jake Osgathorpe. Make it back-to-back profitable weeks for myself. Another good week for you as well, Jake. How are you?
Yeah, good. Wasn't as profitable as the two prior weeks, but we did scrape a profit. We needed some help on Sunday. I'll give you that much. With the Arsenal win, obviously that pushed us over the edge in terms of profit, which is nice. And I guess that was one of my bigger fancies of the weekend. And just yeah, I don't want to spoil the pod, but I've got a very pro Arsenal stance yet again this weekend.
Whoa!
They've
As
they've
Arsenal
been
play
kind to me
Manchester
recently.
United, they've been very at a plus number.
Yeah, yeah.
I'd like to
Plus
think that
122, really good.
Jake has come over to the dark side. What did you say when you were making that Arsenal play over Spurs? You were going with the Gareth Wheeler method.
Yeah.
That's how you presented it at
That
that
is,
time.
yeah, yeah. Just if
Don't
in
overthink
doubt,
it.
who's the better team? Um, yeah, they're a better team. They were a plus number, and I said to myself, I think I said it on the pod as well, what price would Man City be if they were at Spurs? And they would be a lot shorter than what Arsenal went off. And I think Arsenal at this moment in time are performing at the same similar level to Man City. So I think we've probably got 2 or 3 weeks left of that kind of underestimation from the bookies in terms of Arsenal and how good they actually are. So yeah, we'll be looking to take advantage of that again.
I'm actually looking at the lines for this upcoming game week. Like I ended up having 12 plays last week somehow. 12. This week I can guarantee I won't have that many. But some big results, and I feel like the books have adjusted a little bit. We'll get into that a little bit later in this podcast because some of the teams maybe they were undervalued or providing some opportunity. Maybe that has closed a little bit as we've really reached the midway point of the Premier League season. Yeah, I started the weekend slow, 0 for 2 in my Manchester Derby bets, which it mixed emotions for me. You want to win your bets, but I was on City, and as a United supporter, I'll be able to take that. Somehow it stayed under, and if you listen to the pundits, it should have stayed under, where the Bruno Fernandes goal should not have stood, according to anyone who's not a Manchester United supporter. Big win for Southampton. You and I were both on the right side on Brighton Liverpool. That game went over. Well, I actually pushed because the total was at 3 in that game. That was my one push. But you're right. The Sunday was great. I ended up with 7 correct, 4 wrong, and a push on the weekend. How about yourself?
Yeah, I had 3 wrong, 4 correct, and a push. So yeah, but like the 3 of the winners were plus numbers, so that helps just nudge us into profit. I think if we're going level stakes, I think it's something we're probably going to discuss, isn't it, in terms of how we keep track of these things. But if
Yes.
we say our best bet is double stake, then I think I made 0.98 points profit. So we were in the black, but not as much as previous weeks. But you take it any week in the black, you take all day long.
As this podcast continues to evolve, our producers are putting together their collective mind trust and come up with a way that we can properly document for you, the listener, over the course of the coming weeks. As this podcast, we're upping our game. We're improving each and every match week, just like Manchester United. That's why that
And
Arsenal
Arsenal.
shade off the top. So we've reached a point in the season where for the first time since 2004 and the Invincibles, Arsenal are odds-on favorite to go on and win the Premier League. That's on Pinnacle. That's widely available across books, basically everywhere. I haven't seen a city where they're favorite. This is incredible because right after the season ended last year, there were plus 5,000 Arsenal were to go on and win the Premier League this season. So you could have had Arsenal at plus 5,000 after game week 3 plus 1,200, and after game week 17, plus 250. But now things have swung, minus 125 for Arsenal to win the Premier League, and Manchester City coming in at plus 135. What do you make of this? Because at Infogol as well, we have an updated simulation that also has Arsenal as favorites to win the Premier League. So maybe you could walk us through this a little bit, Jake.
Yeah, so the model, we've just done a resimulation, which is based on the team ratings that we have at the start of the season, but the team ratings are fluid. So depending on how you perform, the ratings go up and down over a certain amount of games. And yeah, we've just got the latest simulation after Derby weekend, and Arsenal are into 51% favourites to win the title. So we make them odds on. And you will know, like, you know, listener, if you like your percentages and your odds, that 51% translates to a price of around 1.96 in decimal, or minus 104 on the money American money line, and that ultimately tells you that Arsenal at minus 125 aren't a bet. And that's kind of what we discussed last week. You asked me the question last week: when is the best time to get City on board? And I said to you that the best time would be next week, because City will drop points. I don't think I said it this confidently, but I expected City to drop points and I expected Arsenal to win, and that's exactly what happened. And now you're getting Man City at a plus 135, which, according to the Infogol model, is a value bet. We make them plus 113 on the money line. So there is, there's some value to be had there. But it's the first time ever since I've been working with the Infogol model that we've seen Arsenal as a favourite to win the title. So yeah, quite a big turn of events over the last couple of weeks.
It's been a long time coming. The thing is, and this is where I raise my eyebrows at this. Is this sustainable? Arsenal's in a very difficult run of games. They play United this weekend. They haven't played City in the league as of yet. I understand that they have a 9-point cushion. We're recording this podcast Wednesday. United plays on Wednesday. City plays on Thursday. So there will be some potential movement before United plays Arsenal at the Emirates on the weekend. But it's when you haven't played City yet and you play them twice, and you still need to play United, the only team that's beat you, there could be some room. And with the Arsenal also right in the mix, they have to be considered the favorite to go on and win the Europa League as well. So there's a lot that can happen. I understand why. I mean, that gap is impressive. They continue to be very good. Do they have the depth to see this through? I still do have some questions. That's the bottom line, Jake. I still have some questions about this Arsenal side. Not the way they play, but the sustainability over the duration of the season.
Yeah, I had the same kind of questions myself. The squad depth has always been a major concern of mine. They've been very fortunate with injuries. I did some calculating yesterday, and from the starting 11, I think it's 7 players haven't missed a game in the Premier League, which is, pretty remarkable. And you've got Zinchenko's missed 7. You've got, I think, Partey's missed 3. Odegaard's missed just 1. So, they're starting the strongest 11. They've managed to keep them on the field for most of the season. And it reminds me of when Liverpool won the title. They managed to do that as well. They just basically fielded the same team every single week. And that continuity obviously helps massively. But also, it does mean that if there is a massive injury to a key player, how will that affect things? Thomas Partey, in my opinion, is one of the best players that they've got. Odegaard as well. If one of those gets injured, then what happens? I'd be massively surprised if Arsenal took the Europa League seriously when it comes around to that round of quarterfinal stage. I'd be hugely surprised. If they're in a similar position, if they're 9 points clear of the Premier League and the Europa League draws made, and they get I don't know, like a tricky looking Spanish team like a Sociedad or something like that, I'd be surprised if he didn't just rest and rotate and just completely throws all the eggs in the Premier League basket. I think that's what I would do. You've not won the Premier League for so long. Why would you try and risk, throwing that away, picking up extra injuries, extra minutes on legs, that kind of thing? But they've answered a lot of my questions, Arsenal, to the point where I do think they are rightly favourites. I know we said last week was a big week for them away at Spurs, but this weekend could be the biggest yet. Just hear me out, because we are expecting Man United to beat Crystal Palace. This obviously it kind of leans on that. If United beat Crystal Palace and then beat Arsenal, they're 3 points behind Arsenal.
Yeah. And
then all of a sudden it becomes a case of, right, where's your bottle? So yeah, I think this is one final hurdle for me. If they get through this weekend, if they beat Manchester United, I think that they are well on their way to the title, because they've got a couple of games before that City match. And to be honest, the fixtures either side of the City game aren't that difficult on paper. You've got Everton away, you've got Brentford at home, you've got Villa away, you've got Leicester away, and those two are coming after the Man City game. Then you've got Bournemouth, Fulham. So in reality, if you can maintain a 6-7 point lead going into the City game, you've got 6 games there where you'd expect this Arsenal team to probably make maximum points. So it wouldn't really matter what happened in that game. So yeah, I'm coming around to the fact, and I've kind of mentally readied myself for Arsenal winning the title.
Wow. Get that on tape. We're saving that clip right there. Mentally prepared himself for Arsenal to win the title. Conversely, on this podcast, if you've been listening, listener, I've told you week on, like United top 4 was the play for quite some time. What about United to win the Premier League? Plus 1,300. We're doing this podcast. A lot of it's dependent on what happens against Crystal Palace. If they don't come up with a win, then scrap it. But Jake said it. They could finish the weekend if they go back-to-back wins over Palace and Arsenal, both away, by the way. They could be within 3 points of Arsenal. At plus 1,300, that seems to be tempting, to say the least, if you like their chances over the next 2 games. Something to keep in mind. Anything before we get to this week's games, anything in terms of top 4 futures or relegation futures? Like, relegation's so difficult. I spent a lot of time looking at this, crunching the numbers, but bottom line is there's 2 points separating about 7 teams at the bottom of the table. And like Southampton wins, they're still stuck on the bottom. But I mean, it's just such a logjam, and it's very difficult for me to predict who's going to finish where amongst that group.
Yeah, so based on the simulation, which obviously takes into account team ratings, team form, and current position in the table, we've got Bournemouth as good as down, 74% chance of being relegated. Then come Everton at 61%. So we really don't like Everton's chances of survival, given the way they're currently playing. Southampton at 47%. So they've been above the 50% line for most of the season now. And that win at the weekend against Everton dropped them underneath it. And then surprisingly come, in my opinion, Wolves at 28%. I can't see Wolves going down personally. Leicester at 26.5% are probably a team that I could see going down. They're playing that badly right now. I'm just getting their price up now, plus 300. Out of all of the kind of outsiders, that would be somewhere I'd be looking personally. I just don't really. I've not seen enough from them. This restart's been horrendous. The defense looks all over the place yet again. They're not a team that's going to go and spend as well in the remainder of the January window. So I think that they could be a surprise candidate to drop. And surprised to see Leeds at plus 325 as well. That looks a big number.
Yeah, I don't trust. I was going to say, you didn't mention the 2 teams that I haven't trusted from the outset of the season. I always had Bournemouth as odds on being relegated, but Nottingham Forest and Leeds, I still don't trust either one of those teams.
I've told you all season, Forest will be fine.
With Dean Henderson out now, I don't know. Their away form is still horrendous. We'll have to see. Leicester City, Leeds, Nottingham Forest, all in that group with Southampton and Wolves.
Not mention West Ham
and Everton. West Ham, this weekend's a huge game. It's going to be one of our feature matchups. So let's kick on and get straight into it. Our feature 5, and then we'll go rapid fire for the rest. Ready to get after it this weekend? Let's continue the trend. On paper, it's a good one to start the weekend. In practice, 2 teams simply on miserable form. It's 9th place Liverpool hosting 10th place Chelsea. Both these sides are 10 points back of the top 4. Who would have had that at the start of the season? Both are on 28 points, but Chelsea has played a game more than Liverpool. Liverpool were smashed by Brighton. Embarrassed, like hearing Jurgen Klopp's comments after, and he was right. It was just horrible. 3-0 loss away, 1.96 XG to 1.17, courtesy of the Infogol model. They did bounce back on Tuesday, grinded out a 1-0 win over Wolves to advance in the FA Cup, but they're attacking 3. It's like Gakpo and Elliott and like.
Do you know how much XG they created in that game?
Now, no, how much?
0.14.
Well, I watched the game. It was it was very much a Wolvesy game, and Liverpool have kind of gone that way. They've conceded in 8 of their last 10 games at all competitions, and Liverpool have conceded in each and every one of their last 8 in the Premier League. They've gone over the number of 2.5, and both teams to score in their last 7 in the Premier League. They've been the first to concede in 4 or 5 of all competition. I always repeat this every week. They still have the best XG in the Premier League. Jake did a great video over the week. A top team from an attacking perspective, at least they were. That number's regressing, but defensively 13th in terms of expected goals against in the Premier League. At home, 6-2-1, 23 goals to 9, and the 4th best home expected goal differential in the Premier League. Their only loss came to Leeds, but they have beat teams like City and Newcastle at Anfield this season. Nunez, it looks like he's on road to return. They need a focal point in attack. Chelsea, a much-needed 1-0 win over Crystal Palace. They lost 3 in a row and were winless in 4 before that. And a positive note, they had a 2.06 XG in that game against Palace. Mudryk is in line for a debut in this one. Somehow he ended up at Chelsea, not Arsenal. There's a lot of irony involved in that move. 8 years of Mudryk in the team. Still 6 goals in their last 9 Premier League games overall for Chelsea. Still 12th in terms of XG. They're 3-2-5 away from home. Just 9 goals scored in those 10 away games. 13.3 away XG. And they haven't won in their last 5 away games. They have 11 first-team injuries still and suspensions, including Sterling, Zakaria, Fofana, and João Felix remains suspended as well. Head-to-head, this is their first meeting this season, but last year it was draw, like they just drew across the board. Goalless draws in both the FA Cup and the EFL Cup finals. In the league, 2-2 and a 1-1. So they've gone less than 2.5 goals in 5 of their last 6. Liverpool, Chelsea. You don't have to pick one, Jake, but if you were to make a play in this game, what would it be?
Yeah, I'd be swerving the traditional 1x2 market, that is for certain. I definitely wouldn't be confident backing either team to win the game, and obviously the draw comes with its own, kind of concerns. But I thought over 2.5 goals was worth a play at minus 133. It's quite a it's a short price, but we're talking about a Liverpool team who are league leading in attack, as you mentioned, and defensively they just consistently can't keep their opponents out. They had the clean sheet in midweek in the game against Wolves. Wolves rotated, to be fair. They didn't start there. Cunha didn't start, Podence didn't start, Nunez didn't start. So there was a lot of rotation in the Wolves team, and I'm not reading too much into that. 1.7 expected goals against per game is what they've allowed so far this season. And as you said, I did a video on Liverpool this week, and that figure is the most they've ever conceded in a season under Klopp. At least one relegated team since Klopp's arrival has been has gone down with a better defensive process than what Liverpool currently have. Just kind of to put it in perspective, just how bad that defensive process is. So Chelsea, they got a rare win last time out, but it's 2 successive displays which they've actually created quite a lot of good chances. 2.74 at Fulham, unlucky not to get at least a point in that game, and then 2.06 against Crystal Palace. So are we starting to see Chelsea attack trend in a positive direction? Maybe, but again, defensively they still look quite vulnerable as well. So I think we could be in for a bit of a barnstormer here. I really do. I don't think Liverpool know any other way of playing than attack-minded, especially at Anfield. And I think Chelsea have got the tools to cause some problems for them. So, yeah, I'm happy to take the over 2.5 at a short price. It's a 12:30 game over in the UK, which means it's on TV, which is great news compared to last week's Brighton at Liverpool match. Looking forward to it. I think it's got the potential to be good, and I'm really interested to see what Mudryk brings to the team as well. I'm expecting him to play on the wing. I hope he plays down the left because playing up against Trent, he should get a really nice, easy welcome to the Premier League.
Okay, do you want to make this odds versus wheels part 4?
Oh yeah, go on. Are you taking the under?
Because my preferred play is under 2.5 at plus 116 in this game. It's because of the injuries in both of these sides that I just can't trust either in attack right now. Like Liverpool's numbers are buoyed by the way that they started the season, all the chances that they created. But as of late, that just hasn't been the case. Against Brighton, I mean, that attack was toothless. There's no legs in the midfield. Will Nunez be able to play and start and play 90 minutes? Like they rely so much on Salah, who looks like an isolated figure right now as Gakpo. I don't really understand that signing. There's just nothing to it. A lot of their goals in recent years came from their press, their relentlessness in terms of willingness to run. They so miss Sadio Mane. I'm not buying this Liverpool attack. And even with Mudryk coming into this team, this Chelsea side still doesn't have a number 9. I get that Havertz scored last game, but he misses more chances than he takes. And there's just so many injuries. Like the engine in the midfield in this Chelsea team, it's done. It's injured. It's not playing. Their fullbacks, which have been their strength, is just not there. I think that these are two managers that are a little bit desperate right now. They're not playing to either one of their managers' identities. Like Liverpool grinded out that game against Wolves because they played rather defensive. They sat back a little bit more. So I think based upon the state of both sides, they're going to have to play a little bit more cagey and defensively. I'm kind of picturing like, Chelsea United played to a 1-1. I'm kind of thinking it's going to be that kind of game. It could very well finish a 1-1. So that's my favorite play in this game is an under 2.5. I'm also leaning to make a play on Chelsea with the handicap of plus half a goal at a plus number. It started this morning at plus 103. Right now I'm looking at plus 101. So you're still getting just a shade better than even odds just because you can't bet on Liverpool right now. You just can't. I'd rather take my chances with Chelsea being able to come away with a draw or a win. It's a coin toss for me. You're right. I'm not playing a win for either side or a draw here, but you give me Chelsea with that handicap. I'm tempted to make that play. You know what? I'm going to lock in a half play for Chelsea with the handicap of plus 0.5. So 2 plays.
You're a brave man.
So I look at Liverpool and I can't. I'm actually, I think that the number reflects what Liverpool is kind of supposed to be rather than what they are right now, because this is not it.
I agree that this current price for Liverpool to win the game is a little bit short, but I've not seen enough for Chelsea to suggest that they can go to Anfield and get anything at all, even a depleted Liverpool, in my opinion. And it's interesting, isn't it, how we both view the game in a similar way, but have come with different outcomes. Because you've said that both teams are desperate, that they're going to shut up shop and be tight. I think both teams are desperate, so they're going to be going the other way, and they're going to go crazy attacking football because they both need a win really, because they need a draw isn't good enough for them here. Neither of them. They're, as you said, 9th and 10th. You're 10 points off the top 4. Like draws aren't going to get you flowing up that gap. But they need to win games, even if it's just even if the top 4 is out of reach, even if it's just to get form before the Champions League returns. I just can't see them sitting like sort of resting on the laurels and it being quite cagey. I just think that they'll both see weaknesses in each other. And Klopp and Potter are generally quite attack-minded coaches, and I can see it being, like I say, it's that's just football, isn't it? We've got similar ideas, but we've come out of it with different approaches. Let's have a head-to-head.
Head-to-head, I'm up 2-1 in this. Look, these two sides were much more well-rounded, better attacking sides last year, and they've gone under in 5 of their last 6. So I just don't think there's going to be much to separate these sides. I wouldn't be surprised if a draw comes through, and I like the under. So the under is my main play.
I think the draws or the unders last season were definitely to do with Tuchel. He's a manager that is, well, normally plays big 6 games quite tight. He doesn't like to concede too much possession, anything like that. Doesn't like to go over the top in the big 6 clashes, and I just think Potter's a little bit different. So, I'm looking forward to seeing this. And like I said, I can actually watch this on telly, which is nice.
They should bump that game 9th versus 10th place dross for the.
In
for
fairness,
the, see.
The rest of Saturday slate, what are you going to bump up?
Well, maybe this next game that we're going to deal with, it's bottom of the table, is 18th place West Ham and 19th place Everton. It reminds me of one of those old wrestling matches. It's like the retirement game. If you lose, you're out. Instead of retiring, it's going to be Lampard or Moyes getting the sack. Incredibly, both teams have scored just 15 goals on the season thus far. So we'll see what play we're going to be making in this one, if any. West Ham lost to Wolves 1-0, a 0.93 XG to 0.89, 7 Premier League games without a win for West Ham. And they've had a worse XG in each and every one of those games. 1 win in 10 overall in the Premier League. Their expected league position for West Ham remains 9th, according to Infogol, despite their form getting worse by the week. They're 11th in XG and 7th best in expected goals against. So that's why. Home 3 wins, a draw, and 5 losses, 9 goals for, just 9 goals for, wow, and 12 against. They've been the first to concede in 8 of 10. Back-to-back home losses, their last 2 in the Premier League, to Leicester and Brentford. And they've conceded 2 in their last 3 home games, because in the game before that, they lost 2-1 to Crystal Palace as well. Everton, a 2-1 home loss to Southampton after scoring first in that game. Man, it was a big blow to them. They did have a better XG, 1.27 to 1.07, but really not much to separate them there. They haven't won in their last 7 Premier League games either. Everton, both teams to score, has come through in 5 out of 5 in all comps and over 2.5 in 6 out of 7 in all competitions. They fared a little bit better away than they have at home, coming up with draws in their last 2 away games against City and Fulham. I should say in 2 of their last 3 away games. Only Fulham have a worst expected goals against in the Premier League. 35 expected goals against in just 19 games for Everton. 1-4-4 away, and they have the 3rd worst expected goal differential away from home. Head-to-head earlier this season, it was a 1-0 win for Everton, but the XG 0.32 to 0.99 in that game. This fixture last season finished 2-1, but the total has fallen to the under 2.5 in 4 of their last 5 meetings. West Ham, Everton, Jake, go.
I'm glad this isn't on the telly, because I'm expecting a very drab game with very few scoring chances. Under 2.5 goals for me. It seems like a very obvious play. So I was quite surprised to see the price at minus 120, which is a number I'm more than happy to make a play on. Like I said, 2 teams, they're winless in 7. If we take those 7 games and just have a little look at the underlying numbers, you can kind of see why the unders just comes like an obvious selection. West Ham have generated just 0.79 non-penalty expected goals for per game across those 7 matches. They've failed to score in 4 of those. But at the other end, they've allowed just 1.35 non-penalty expected goals against per game. So their games in general aren't featuring too many high-scoring chances. And Everton, just 1.03 non-penalty expected goals for per game across their last 7, 1.95 expected goals against per game. So they're a little bit leakier at the back, which we kind of know just from the eye test. But you've got 2 really poor attacking units. And the question for me is, can West Ham create enough to beat Everton? I mean, they should get the chances given what Everton are giving up. But at the same time, West Ham are really struggling in forward areas. So, 2 really poor attacks. There's a lot on the line. Generally, David Moyes is quite a conservative coach, so I don't think he'll be going for the kill and trying to take the 3 points from an end-to-end kind of clash. I think he'll look for a more controlled win like they got against Bournemouth, which was the last time they actually won a game, which was, I think it was like a 1-0 up until the last 5 minutes, and then they got a penalty. I just thought the unders looked way too big of a price. And if you look at just the raw figures, the under 2.5 landed in 78% of West Ham home games and 67% of Everton's away games. So you've got a really, it's a decent sample size between the 2 clubs, and you've got a really high percentage if you combine them. It might be my best bet of the week.
Wow,
might be, maybe. Okay.
I'm not touching this game. I don't trust either one of the sides. I'm using the info goal model. I've ridden West Ham a little bit and not being rewarded for that. I'm not sure if and when and how they turn this around. It could be a game they put 2 or 3 past Everton. And I was looking at West Ham win to 0 at plus 198. But I just can't trust West Ham. I'm sorry, I just can't do it. This team, when they concede first, they just cannot claw their way back into games. So they need to play defensive and not concede. Do they score in this game? I'm not quite sure. Everton, I haven't made an Everton play in months when it comes to being on their side. Not going to start this weekend as well. So no play for me in this game.
I don't blame you. I think it's first goal wins in that one.
Yeah, it could be. If you like West Ham to bounce back, they're due, but whatever that means. Plus 198 to win to 0. That's the best advice I can give you, but I'm not making that play, and I wouldn't rush out to go make that play either. Let's move on. Manchester City face 16th place Wolves on Sunday. That's because Manchester City play Spurs on Thursday and that's coming up after this podcast is being recorded. Before that Spurs game, back-to-back losses for Man City. Southampton in the EFL Cup and United, both coming away from home. They fell 2-1 in the Manchester Derby on the weekend. It was their biggest expected goals defeat since September of 2020. United were the better side. They only had one shot on target, Man City, in that game, and it found the back of the net. 2 wins, 2 losses, and a draw in their last 5 Premier League games. Both teams to score have played in 4 to 5 over that span. They still have the most goals and the best expected goal differential, according to Infogol. At home, they've been very good, 7-1-1 before their home match against Spurs on Thursday. 31 goals, but the XG is much lower at 21.5. And they've been 8.7 expected goals against in 9 games at home as well. So they've been good defensively. Stones and Diaz remain out at the back. Akanji and Ake played decent, and they've been the first to score in 7 of 8. Wolves beat West Ham last weekend 1-0, but then lost 1-0 in the return leg of the FA Cup to Liverpool on Tuesday. 3-3-2 in all competitions under Lopetegui as manager. But it's the same issues, goals. Where are they coming from? They've only gone over 2.5 goals in 2 of 8. And they've only scored 4 goals in their last 4 games and 12 goals overall in the season. They haven't lost away from home in their last 5 in all competition. That's a positive. And they're top half of the table in terms of expected goals against, having the 4th best expected goals against away from home. Only City, Arsenal, Newcastle are better in that category. Lamina and Sarabia have come in. The recent signings both could feature this weekend as well. Head-to-head, City beat Wolves 3-0 earlier this season. It was 2-0 before Collins was sent off, and Wolves just put up a 0.3 XG in that game. City have won 5 straight against Wolves, have scored 6 games in a row, have been first to score in 6 of 6, and have been the first half winner in 5 of 6 in this matchup. And they've gone over the 2.5 goal total in 5 of 6 games as well. In this fixture last season, it finished 1-0. City, not surprisingly, not knowing what's going to happen on Thursday night, are still a significant favorite in this game. Is there a play to be made in this one? City Wolves at the Etihad.
Yeah, I quite like the under 3 goal line at plus 114. I was quite surprised to see that they're offering money back if there's exactly 3 goals. I thought it'd be a little bit higher. A little bit lower the goal line. I thought it'd be around 2.75. Yeah, I think the fact that they play on in midweek, City, is, we know they've got a big and a deep squad, but they've played midweek weekend for 3 straight weeks, straight out of the restart. So it's going to have an effect. They've got a couple of injuries as well, particularly at the back, and they've not really looked like the City that we saw at the start of the season. They've started to struggle a little bit. They've scored just once in 4 of the last 5 league games. So they've hit only multiple goals once in the 5 games, which was at Leeds. The underlying numbers are still fairly strong across that period. But last weekend, they barring the goal, they didn't cause Man United much trouble at all. And United are a good defensive team. We've been speaking for the last couple of weeks or months about their improvement at the back. And while I don't think Wolves are that good defensively, they are towards the top end of the league in terms of underlying data, which you've just highlighted. So, yeah, they've been decent under Lopetegui. 2 wins and a draw in 4 league games. Definitely, the defense has been the calling card. They're still struggling to create chances. Low scoring games have just continued to be a theme with Wolves. They have been for 3-4 years now, and the under 3 goal line would have landed in 3 of 4 Lopetegui matches, pushed in 1, and across the last 7 of City, the under 3 would have paid out as a winner in 3 and pushed in 3 while only losing in 1. So, that security of money back if it's 3 goals, something that appeals to me greatly, because, if City do win, I don't expect it to be a 4-5-0 game, 3-0 max, in which case you're getting a push. But I think Wolves can make it difficult for them, and maybe see this as a 1-0 or a 2-0 City. So I was quite happy to see a plus number in what I think is a potentially tricky game for City.
I get your logic there. This is very un-Gareth Wheeler. I'm not making a play here either.
Right.
I just when you hear Gundogan and others say that something's just not right now about this Man City side, I'm just going to stay away for the time being. The good news, if you're a City supporter, like this little bit of a wobble's happening now and not at the end of the season when it typically happens in the Champions League and they drop these random games. I think it's better to happen now for this side to figure it out and get it together. But while they're on this little bit of a wobble, I'm not willing to make a play at the prices that are provided. I just don't think that Wolves offer anything in attack going to the Etihad. I think it's going to be exceptionally difficult. I'm just not sure if this is the game that City break out or not. So I'll just stay away for the time being and I'll move on. So back-to-back games, no play for me. Yeah. Do I have a temperature? Am I feeling okay?
I don't know. Yeah,
So.
you're putting a lot of the burden on me to put a play up. So.
I have to play for this next game. We might it might be actually the first time on this podcast we have two head-to-heads. Oz versus Wheeler in the same one. Yeah. Because get out your hot tub time machine, people, and spin yourself back to 2 decades ago. This is like Wenger and Ferguson, but this time around it's Arteta and Ten Hag in a critical game near the top of the table in the Premier League. It's Arsenal hosting United with the Gunners leading the way in the Premier League heading into this weekend. United, they play Wednesday against Crystal Palace. We'll see if they can close that gap between them and the league leaders. For Arsenal, a 2-0 win in the North London derby, made pretty easy business of it as well. 1.39 XG to Arsenal's 1.96 in that game. They're 8 points up before the City and United games go and are played on Wednesday and Thursday, respectively. 47 points in 18 games. Their only loss came against Manchester United. No loss in their last 5, no goals conceded in 3 overall for Arsenal. And they're in a stretch right now where they played Spurs. Now they play United. Then they play City in the FA Cup, then Everton, Brentford, then City again. They're only 4th best in XG on the season, but they do have the top expected goals against. 42 goals on an XG on the season of 36.9. They haven't lost at home, 7-1-0. Their draw came last time out against Newcastle. They're 6.8 expected goals against in 8 games at home, unquestionably the best in the Premier League. Odegaard, Martinelli, Saka, 8, 7, and 6 goals respectively, but none of them have an XG of over 5. United, they play Palace on Wednesday, 9 wins in a row before that, 2-1 over City, 1.67 XG to just 0.67 for City in that game. City only had 1 shot on target. They won their last 2 away games in the Premier League as well against Fulham and Wolves. This is a step up in class. 4th best in expected goal differential away from home, 16 goals against, but an XG, expected goals against, that is, of 12.3. The good news is that this isn't a fluke in terms of United's form. They've won the XG battle in their last 7 games overall. Rashford has set goals in 7 straight games, 8 in 7 since the World Cup. United being first to score in 6 of 7 and gone over the 2.5 goal total in 5 out of their last 6. This is a very... it should be a straightforward stretch for United coming up. After Arsenal this weekend, they play Nottingham Forest, Reading, Forest again, Palace, and Leeds. And that spans 3 different competitions. Dalot is a question mark, but Wout is not out. He is in. Weghorst is now a United player. Head-to-head, United won 3-1 earlier this season. Arsenal did edge them in the XG in that game. Antony scored a debut in that game, and Rashford scored a brace. Interestingly, in the last 3 games they played, each team has won by scoring 3 goals. 3-1, 3-1, and 3-2 for United last season. Ramsdale and De Gea have both been excellent on the season, 2nd and 3rd overall in clean sheets. It's a big one. Jake, you teased it earlier in the podcast that you may have another Arsenal play in this one. Is that the direction that you're going?
It is, yeah. I'm taking Arsenal just to win the game, -101. If you rewind about 20 minutes, we were just talking about the title and the percentages, and yeah, I'm very, like I said, come to terms with the fact that this could be the year Arsenal win the title. I think they're playing that well. Their underlying numbers are at a similar level to Manchester City, which is staggering given what we saw last season from Arsenal. The fact that this game's at the Emirates, I think is huge. Away from home, Arsenal have been fantastic as well, but at home they've been pretty sensational from an underlying data perspective. 2.36 expected goals for, 0.85 against at home this season, which is, I think, the third best attacking process and the best defensive process when playing at home. They won 7 of 8 at the Emirates. The process, as I said, is similar to Man City. So I asked myself again, what price would Man City be at home to United? What price? Like I would expect maybe minus 200.
That high right now? Do you think so? I was going to say
Yeah,
maybe
yeah.
a minus 140
Well, the
range.
fact that City were a minus number at Old Trafford suggests that they'd be heavily odds on if they were hosting. So, yeah, I personally, I rate Arsenal at a similar level to Man City right now, and I don't think the market's really, I think it's still underestimating them. I've said all the positives about Arsenal. United are looking good. They won 5 straight in the league. I still got question marks about them away from home, though. We don't know how they get on in midweek. 5 wins from 9 on the face of it looks good, but they've beaten Wolves, Fulham, Everton, Leicester, and Southampton. 4 of those teams are currently in the bottom 6 in the league. So there's no scalps there. They lost away at City. They drew at Chelsea, who were, not in a very good place at the time. I think Potter maybe 5 games in, something like that. So yeah, I'm yet to see enough from United away from home to make me sit up and go, wow, yeah, they can go to the Emirates, the best home team in the land, and get a result. Whereas we've seen Arsenal, they've just dismantled teams readily at the Emirates. So yeah, I'm going to ride with the Gunners again. Like I said, I think the price is huge. I really do. I think they should be a lot shorter for this, given the underlying data, given that they're fully fit, given the run that they're on right now. I just think it's the name Manchester United that's keeping this price a very juicy one. I think if you'd put any other team there with the same process, it would be a heavy odds on kind of price. So yeah, I have a feeling this is going to be a head to head. You're going to be looking at Man United plus a half. I would expect, which I can see, but I really do. It's a price play more than anything for me. I think the price is wrong. I think they should be shorter because they are performing at a level that is Man City-esque. So yeah,
it's going to be my favorite play of the week, and it's going to be very much like Newcastle against Arsenal a few weeks back. It's a step up in class for Arsenal because you can say the same thing. Arsenal continue to beat teams that they should, and full credit to them for going out and doing that. And they've been impressive in their game model. Odegaard, Martinelli, and Saka have driven this team forward, but it's a step up in competition against a United team that's been tactically flexible. I think their manager perhaps isn't being fully appreciated how good he's been pulling the right strings. Luke Shaw playing center back against Man City, playing Bruno out on the right. Like, he's making every adjustment that needs to be made. I think that United are strong through that midfield area to take away the strength in this Arsenal side. I think it's going to be a combative game. I think this game, a draw would really fancy Arsenal. I think Arsenal would be happy coming away with a draw in this game. The way that they played, beat the teams that you should, draw difficult teams like United like this, the team that already beat them this season. Give me United on the handicap of plus half a goal at minus 108. I think this is my favorite play of the week, to be honest with you. I understand that they play Wednesday, but there's rotation in this side. You can bring in different center backs. You can change what you look like at fullback. I think he's rotated the midfield very, very well in this game. The only thing that makes me a little bit nervous, we need to see the way that the game plays out against Crystal Palace, because if Casemiro or Fred picks up a caution, either one of them suspended for the weekend. I think that both players could play a big role. You can almost utilize Fred in the role that he played against Manchester City, against De Bruyne. You can use him in a very similar way against Odegaard as well. So that's my favorite play in this game. I also have a second play in this game, Jake, as well, under the number of 2.5 at plus 114. I think it'll be like a low scoring, cagey game. Both teams are excellent defensively. But that's where their bread and butter is. That's where the strength is with both of these teams, is in terms of their defensive work that they put in, how good they are defensively. Under 2.5 at plus 114. That's the number I can get behind as well.
Okay. Yeah. See, I'd be going the opposite way on that as well. I think there could be quite a few goals in this one. Wow. Arsenal generally against the big boys have been quite entertaining. I think it's 3-1 against Spurs, 3-2 against Liverpool. 3-1 in the reverse game as well. I think United will look to play on the counter attack. But I've just done some digging, and earlier in the season, City were minus 222 to beat Man United. Now, obviously, United weren't as good as what they are now. If you
Nowhere near.
factor that in a little bit, you're probably getting. I would expect if they played that game again at the Etihad, you get minus 154 for Arsenal. For Man City if they were hosting at the Etihad. And I still think that's a big leap. This current from minus 154 to minus 104, which is what we're getting right now. I think it's too big. I do think that Arsenal deserve a bit more respect than that in the market. And yeah, they're basically saying, the bookies, that if this was played at a neutral venue, that Arsenal would only win 43% of the time, and I don't think that's right. I think they'd win a little bit more than that, probably 46, 47%. So I like it. 2 head-to-heads. This is exciting.
Yeah, this is
I
a
could
first
overturn
here
the
on
deficit
EPL
in
Insights.
1 week.
I know, or you could dig yourself a much deeper hole. That's probably the way that it's gonna go. All right, let's head to our final feature match of the weekend, and it's Monday Night Football, and it should be a really good one. This is one we can actually give a little bit of hype behind, not like Liverpool Chelsea on Saturday, but it's 6th place Fulham taking on 5th place Spurs. Fulham 1-0 loss on short rest. It was very short rest. They played a Thursday, Sunday, a difficult turnaround for them against Newcastle. An 89th minute goal from Isak won it for Newcastle in that game, but they were competitive throughout. They did beat Chelsea 2-1 the Thursday before. This was their first loss, and the first game they didn't win after the World Cup in all competitions. Fulham have been playing very good. They're 6th in the league, but their expected league position, according to Infogol, is 12th. They still have the worst expected goals against, 39.6 in 20 games. The 7th most goals, however, and they're 8th in XG. 5-3-2 at home, a positive goal differential, 18-5. But again, their expected goals against at home is still the worst in the Premier League. Their last 3 at home all ended in a 2-1 final. Wins over Chelsea and Southampton, and a loss to Manchester United. They've gone over 2.5 in 9 of 10 at home. The one exception, a goalless draw against Everton. They've been first to score in the first half, winner of 6 out of 7. And it's also worthwhile to bring up that guy with a great nickname, Anthony Jedi Robinson, the left back, will be suspended for this game. Spurs, they play City on Thursday, but they're coming into that game losing 2-1 to Arsenal. They've given up 2 or more goals in 7 of their last 8 games. However, they're still 7th in XG, 6th in expected goals against. So for me, 5th place, they're just about right where they should be in terms of the league table. 4-3-2 away ahead of that City game. 16 goals scored, 12 against, but just 12th in expected goals. However, they did beat Palace 4-0 in their last away game before this. But going back-to-back, away at City, away at Fulham, it's a little bit of a tricky stretch for Spurs here. Bentancur looking to get fit. He may be able to feature, as soon as Thursday as well. Head-to-head, Spurs won this matchup 2-1 early in the season. No surprise, Kane and Mitrovic both scored in that game. Spurs haven't lost to Fulham in their last 8. No clean sheets for Fulham in 8. They've gone over the 2.5 goal total of 6 of 8, and both teams have scored in 4 of 5. Should be a competitive game. Spurs, based upon reputation, have a little bit more juice in this, or a little bit less juice in this one than Fulham. What do you make from this game? It should be a really good one from Craven Cottage.
Yeah, I think it could be a really good competitive game. I was looking at the Fulham number on the money line at plus 230, and that was interesting me because I think there's every chance they do to Spurs what they did to Chelsea not so long ago, and take a decent scalp. But then you just click on the Infogol website, look at the underlying data, and away, even at home, they're allowing over 2 expected goals against per game, which against a Spurs side that yes, they're not creating much at the moment, but they are very clinical when they do get chances. Usually, I think that's a little bit dangerous. So I kind of pivoted away from the money line and went back to the goal line. Over 2.5 goals at minus 125 looks really good to me. I really like this bet. I think Fulham in general have been really fun to watch. As I said, away in terms of defensively, they concede a load of chances, but going forward, they create 1.7 expected goals for per game. So their matches at home are averaging 3.73 expected goals per game. So chances at both ends, over 2.5 landing 90% of matches at Craven Cottage this season. Spurs continues to be all over the place defensively, and I know that they had this shutout at Crystal Palace, but I think if Jordan Ayew scores that goal in the first half, then it might look even worse for Spurs than it does right now. Away from home, 1.47 expected goals for, 1.44 against. So again, they're averaging nearly 3 expected goals per match when they travel. And over 2.5 landed in 6 of their last 8 and 4 of the last 6 away matches. So, I fully expect this to be quite an entertaining game. And we're at the point in the season now as well. I know it's only halfway, but if Spurs are going to finish in the top 4, they need to win these matches. Like, they can't just go to Fulham and try and avoid defeat. They're going to have to go out and try and get 3 points, which will leave them even more exposed at the back. And Fulham, they've got some serious weapons that can cause Spurs' shaky backline some problems. So yeah, I'm all over the goals in this one.
Yeah, me too. Over 2.5 goals at -125. It's a no-brainer. My second favorite play of the week. You know me, Fulham and my overs. I just continue to ride that train, and it's been very profitable over the course of the season. I will make a half play as well on Spurs to win this game at +118. This fits that category of games, the away team on a plus number, a decent plus number, and the better team, at least on paper, going to a team that I think has been punching a little bit above their weight. The expected position of 12th in the table kind of reveals a little bit of the frailty still in this Fulham side. I think that that's inevitably to change a little bit. And Spurs, this is a game that I think that Harry Kane can really dominate. And traditionally he has against teams that are weak defensively like this. I think that Spurs can go out and score multiple goals in this game. So I like Spurs in the over in this one. So I didn't play 2 of our feature matches, but in the other 3 games, I have 2 plays for each. So there you go. Shall we move on quickly to rapid fire? And this has been a profitable section for us in recent weeks as well. For some of the games that maybe slept on a little bit, but you can maybe find something of your liking. 15th place Leicester City and 7th place Brighton. Leicester City coming off a 2-0 loss to Forest. They're on awful form, 5 losses in 6 overall since the World Cup, and their only win came against Gillingham. Brighton flying high despite the off-field problems with Trossard, a 3-0 win over Liverpool, away wins over Everton and Middlesbrough in the Cup. Like, this team is scoring goals for fun. Do you have a play in this game?
I do, yeah. I looked at Brighton to win, +113. Interested me for a brief moment. And then I saw Brighton to score over 1.5 goals at +101, which you obviously get the added security that, it could be a 2-2 game. We know what the Zerbi ball's like. They score, create loads of chances, but they also leave themselves exposed at the back. So you get that security there. I thought that number was fantastic, really. Leicester, shocking since the restart, conceded 2 expected goals against per game on average. They've conceded twice in 3 of those 4 Premier League matches. Brighton, they are purring at the moment. 3 of 4 wins since the restart, just a defeat to Arsenal, which is the only blemish. They've scored multiple goals in 6 of the last 7 league matches, including the last 3 away. So they are a really hot attacking team right now. So yeah, I think they can score multiple goals again at the King Power.
That's why I like over 2.5 at -115. As much as I like Fulham overs, I love Brighton overs, and typically I like Leicester overs. They're not scoring goals right now, but they're conceding them for fun. So give me over the total of 2.5 in that game. Southampton on Aston Villa, 2 informed sides all of a sudden. Southampton 3 wins in a row in all competition, and they've scored twice in each and every one of those 3 games. And their expected league position is 15th, although they remain 20th in the table. Villa flying a 2-1 win over Leeds, although the XG didn't work in their favor in that game. But they've won 4 out of 6 and points in 5 of 6 in the Premier League, as Unai Emery has got this team humming a little bit, at least able to come away with results. You look at the number here, and I'm making a half play in this game. I don't love the play, but the number is just too good to pass up on. Villa to win at +155. Like, Southampton's still bottom of the table, and you're saying that Villa can go there and win, and you're going to give me +155. I need to at least make a half play in this game.
Yeah, I don't mind that myself. I've got no bet down here. like I said, Southampton look to be improving under Nathan Jones, and Villa away from home. They've only played 2 matches under Emery, but they've got 2 impressive wins. And away at, was it Brighton and Spurs, they've come away with wins. So yeah, I definitely can understand a lean towards Villa, but I was just happy to take a watching brief on that one.
All right. Bournemouth and Nottingham Forest. Bournemouth, my God, lost again 2-0 to Brentford, just 0.41 XG in that game. And having an XG over 1 in their last 4 Premier League games and no goals in 4 since the World Cup. They take on Nottingham Forest, coming up a 2-0 win at home over Leicester City. But a reminder, they've just won 1 game away. It came against Southampton, 2 goals for, 22 goals conceded away from home. And now their goalkeeper, Dean Henderson, is out through injury, injured himself on a goal kick. It's a battle at the bottom. Any chance that Bournemouth turns around their form against a team that really struggles away from home?
I don't think so. No, I'm going to, like Arsenal, I'm going to keep riding the Forest train because I think they've turned a corner. They were profitable for me last week with, I got them on the plus on the Asian handicap with a +0, so draw no bet. I'm going to do the same bet again. The price is similar. You got -102 this time. It's more about Bournemouth really than Forest because Bournemouth look really, really bad. 8 defeats in 9. The only win came against Everton, which kind of says all you need to know. They got shut out in 6 of those, creating less than 0.9 expected goals per game. Defense is a major problem. They're conceding goals for fun and chances for fun. And yeah, Forest away from home, the results and the numbers aren't great, but that last win, or that one away win, actually came the last away match against a relegation rival. This is exactly the same kind of formula here, and they've won the XG battle in back-to-back matches, which is the sign of things turning the right direction. And generally, they're a better team than Bournemouth. I think they found the feet, they found the groove. Defensively, looking a little bit tighter, which I expected to be the case. So yeah, I'm happy to take a play on Forest +0. I think they'll at least draw.
We're not going head-to-head here. Well, we are going head-to-head, but we're not making this an official play because my confidence level isn't high. But this is desperate days for Bournemouth, and they bullied Nottingham Forest in the second half last time they played, and they beat them 3-2. The Henderson injury, there are some knocks and niggles in this Forest team. Bournemouth to win at +179.
Oh, he's done it. This reminds me of a couple of weeks ago when he went to Southampton as well.
I know it is. I sometimes learn from my mistakes. This time I just Forest away. Come on. Bournemouth, this is their first.
You don't want to make this a head-to-head?
It's their first. No, because I'm not that confident in it. But just put an asterisk beside this one. Come on, Bournemouth. You beat Nottingham Forest in this game. +179. Home dog against Nottingham Forest. Come on.
I wouldn't back them at +300. They are that bad.
They turn this around starting this weekend. Crystal Palace and Newcastle. Palace play United on Wednesday. 3 losses in a row in all competitions heading in. Newcastle beat Fulham 1-0. How about this? Nick Pope hasn't conceded a goal in over 11 hours. It's wild. 5 straight Premier League clean sheets. These two sides, by the way, drew 0-0 in their meeting this season. The XG in that game, 4.17 to 1.03. It's a 0-0. Do you have a play for this one?
Yeah, I'm taking Newcastle to win, -110. I think that's a very fair number. Palace, they've lost back-to-back home matches, 3-0 and 4-0. Performances in both were really bad. I know there's a couple of red cards in the first, but at home, the process is nowhere near the level last season. So this season, it's 1.2, 1.5 for and against. Last season, it was 1.6, 0.97. So a massive drop-off. And Newcastle, away from home, their process on the face of it doesn't look good. It looks kind of mediocre. But if you remove the matches against the Big Six, they're actually clicking along at a very impressive rate. 1.9 expected goals for, 1.1 against. So away from home against the rest, in inverted commas, they've been really impressive. So I'm happy to ride with Newcastle.
No play for me. Somehow Palace has come away with 4 wins at home.
I couldn't believe how high they were in the table when I was looking.
I don't get it. Guimaraes looks like his ankles. Such an important player in this Newcastle team. Could end in a draw. I'm going to take a pass on this one. And finally, 14th place Leeds take on 8th place Brentford. Leeds coming off a loss, but their XG continues to be decent in their games played. 3-3 at home. Brentford on fire, 3 Premier League wins in a row. They beat Bournemouth 2-0. And they drew their other game since the World Cup against Tottenham. And even before the World Cup, they beat City before that, and they're undefeated in 7 straight overall. Ridiculous. They beat Leeds, by the way, 5-2 the last time they played. Tony had a hat trick. This one screams the over, but the numbers provided on Pinnacle doesn't scream to me in this game. So I'm going to take a pass in this one as well.
Pass for me as well. Yeah. Leeds are just so unpredictable right now. And we generally, both of us, only like backing Brentford when they're playing at home. So, yeah, I'm happy to just leave that one alone.
All right. That's the table. That's the fixture list, I should say, for the weekend. My best bet, go on United. It's basically a draw, no bet. United on the handicap of 0.5 at Arsenal.
You're making that the best bet?
It's my best bet of the weekend.
Wow.
And, pair that with my Chelsea, basically a draw, no bet on the handicap against Liverpool. Those are 2 head-to-heads on the weekend. What's your best bet, Jake?
My best bet is going to be the over in the Fulham match. Minus 125. I think there could be quite a lot of goals in that one, given the way that those two have been playing.
Agreed.
Yeah. So best bet, Fulham Spurs, over 2.5 goals.
Brilliant. So a big weekend in the Premier League, atop the table, at the bottom of the table. And for our EPL Insights table as well, the Oz versus the Wheels. Go to pinnacle.com, check out the Premier League predictions articles each and every week. Plus, keep tuned in at Pinnacle on Twitter, at Pinnacle Sports on YouTube as well. We're also running our NFL Playoffs Big Bet competition with your chance to win a $10,000 bet on American football's biggest game. The link is in the description to these podcasts, so make sure that you make a play there. Odds are correct at the time of recording. Please gamble responsibly. Follow myself at Gareth Wheeler and Jake at Jake Oz. The best of luck this weekend, Jake, with the exception of the games at Anfield and the Emirates.
Yeah. Hopefully the rest of it goes well for us. Those two go in my favor.
Tell your friends about this pod. Back-to-back profitable weeks for both of us in the Premier League as we look to keep things going this weekend as well. The best to all of you out there, and we'll see you next week. And I guess you'll hear from us next week on EPL Insights with data provided by Infogol.